I get why people are taking apart their faith. It absolutely makes sense to me. People have been doing it, for a long time. But really, it feels like it's been speeding up in the last while. When I went to seminary and first became a pastor 15 years ago, people were talking like this. We were beginning to understand more, see more, know more about the world. And so we were starting to take apart the simplistic ways that we were handed faith, to shine the light of truth on things that had been covered up. I understand how this is just the weirdest time to be religious Christian ever. We have the internet. The internet. All of a sudden, when I was halfway through high school, the world was like, oh, all those things you wanted to learn? Here's all of them. And you're just like, what? All of them all at once? That's crazy. So of course, we were going to go through some sort of collective time of deconstruction. But I will admit that I feel a little disappointed with where it's gone. People have been taking their faith apart, and it feels like there's been a slide in their messaging. Like at first you check their social media and they're writing things like, I'm a follower of the radical way of Christ who dismantles all systems of oppression. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. I can see the connection. And then 1 year later, they're like, I'm a poly-sex witch who loves tarot. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, nothing necessarily even wrong with that, but it's just not very Christian. At a certain point, you're not deconstructing, you've just deconverted and converted to the moon or whatever, People who are like, I can't pray, that's weird, but I love astrology. It's sort of a strange and sort of predictable slide. Like in this capitalist environment, there's a lot of product to sell people if they take apart their faith all the way and just let it drift into whatever. And if any conservatives are listening to this and thinking like, you get them, rising from your memes, like you have got a lot of stuff going on as well that you should feel pretty ashamed of. It's not deconstruction for you. It's more like just a hardening of your chest and heart, right? And a taken back. We've got to take back our country, which is not a thing you can do. I think the only people who can take back this country are indigenous. There's a lot of questions around, like, what do you think it means to be a Christian? Do you think it means to win? Like, that's not the way it goes. And if you have like posters in your house or big print-offs of the face of your political leaders, the ones that you love, and you've got their name in big letters and their face on big objects, and you go and you look at them, I just want to say I don't know anything about policy, but that's idolatry. Hey, the big head that you all go around and look at and stare at and touch, that's idolatry. Stop being idolaters. And there's maybe some people being like, yeah, everything sucks. It's like, oh, shut up. Like, this is not good. We can't just be consuming this much information, consuming this much merchandise. We can't just take it all apart and have nothing to show for it again. Something will always take its place. I guess when all this deconstruction stuff began, I was hoping for something a little more radical. And some of you are thinking, well, that's easy for you to say. You're a pastor. And if you deconstructed, you'd have to find a new job. And to that I say,